Hey homies, good morning. It's time to take a look at Hamster versus the TheNightFox. Our first matchup is going to be ZVZ, but we got a ZVT in there for Alpha XY afterwards. Let's begin on Tesseract, and we actually have spawns on the south part of the map, with the TheNightFox, the Coyote Brown Zerg in the bottom left, going straight for that fast Vespine with 2 workers as opposed to Hamster's 1. Hamster is in the bottom right, and I want to say this is... my gut reaction was to say turquoise. I know it's not eggshell blue because it's a little bit dark. Yeah, fuck it, I'll say turquoise. Hey, alright, I was right. It's always nice to be right and then to actually double down on the right and be double right, I guess. I don't know, whatever you would call that. Very right, extra right. So, as we are hanging out here, hope you guys are enjoying Cosmonarchy. This is, of course, a very bizarre, to some, to the uninitiated, perhaps, expansive project that is built within the bones of Starcraft 1, and we've basically extended the skeleton into something that is kind of, sort of, relatable, but is a more interesting and, I was going to say, like, efficient machine, because I was thinking about, like, biological machines and, you know, building evolution and all that other stuff. I mean, it's fitting, because we got ZVZ here, but you don't have to drink the Kool-Aid on that side. You don't have to say it's better than the original game. You can choose whatever you want to choose there, but many people do say that. You can ask anybody, people often do. Now, that being said, we have a Hydrith den coming up here. It is, of course, Hamster's preferred strategy, it seems, to go for that Hydrith first. He still mixes in other ones, but actually Hamster has been a little bit AWOL for a little bit. So normally, I mean, I did sort him as the higher player, the player on the left on the overlay, and the left on the thumbnail, and that always means that he is the favorite to win. In terms of, like, the heads up. But I wouldn't count the TheNightFox out by any means. I think this is actually a pretty even matchup now, because Hamster, while he has the legacy name, the tenure as a tier 1 player in our little small ecosystem, that's still growing. It's still got some new names every now and then, but definitely a small player base overall, you know, sub 100 active players for the 1v1 scene specifically. Got way more playing casual stuff. But yeah, when it comes to the PvP stuff, I would 100% expect that the TheNightFox should be able to come back and with a vengeance sort of assert himself as, like, at least equal to Hamster. Maybe it's like 60-40 in favor of Hamster or something. Anyway, that's a lot of blabbing, but both of our players have gone for Hydrith, obviously much more delayed by Fox. He goes for the Circuit at the ramp, definitely benefiting from that in terms of, you know, warding off early attacks. Though I would say, if it was a bunch of Zethra cores that came in at the same time, I feel like that would actually be pretty vulnerable, but maybe we'll see that matchup later on. It will not be in today's video. The Zero Core Cross Scouts, because it's pretty fast, pretty nimble. Chad walk all the way across the map. Got a couple Hydralisks just hanging out over here, poking out, being a little bit less Chadly and confident as they slinker off to the bottom right. So it looks like actually the TheNightFox and Hamster will find each other's home locations pretty quickly here. Expansion going down on the low ground, a couple of Hydras to riposte the TheNightFoxes as he comes up. In fact, he's even going to get a little bit of a jump on him in that respect, and the Zero Core does end up just walking on past. There's a couple of Hydralisks here, so this attack should be pretty short-lived, but we'll see what Hamster wants to do. He's got a couple of idle workers back at home, actually, and oh, look at that! I feel like somehow we've seen the Hydralisks get missed. Like, they didn't actually see this or whatever. They have been driven off over at the natural. It doesn't look like any workers will be killed. There are a couple that are still burrowed. We'll see if Fox recognizes that. He has been doing a lot of things, micromanaging his Hydras, pulling him back so that he didn't lose them on the assault. But yeah, he still has 2 burrowed, and that is always the risk, right? I mean, you get burrow by default in Cosmonarchy. You don't have to research abilities or upgrades or anything. You just have those as unique intrinsic traits of the unit. And so, in this case, burrow is obviously a shared ability, but not having 2 of them? I mean, he's still up by effectively 2 workers, up by 4 in total, with 2 of them obviously not doing anything. It's not the end of the world, but it is something that's going to be progressively more painful the longer the time goes on. Oh, it looks like he's figured it out. There we go. Okay, so all is well with the world. He's going up to 4 larvae per 14 seconds. Hamster has his 2 larvae. So he's actually got the same larva production and the natural. He's going to go ahead and it looks like we're engaging in Hydra Wars. Definitely favor Hamster in this situation if things go all the way back to his base. I mean, he has the extra, you know, superiority for the defensive advantage. You don't say that too often in ZVZ, but I do think that that will be some cause for concern. I mean, we'll see. I mean, Fox does have a big count, and he is going to go ahead and dive onto that. No cancel. It is going to result in one of his Hydras getting popped, But yeah, realistically speaking, he can't quite pressure too much over here, right? The Hydra count is going to be too even, and you are talking about the reinforcement point here. Now, Hamster's struggling a little bit on the control. Reinforcement Hydralisk coming in. It's only one of them so far. But yeah, even though it's not very cost efficient here, Hamster is actually narrowly ahead in workers and obviously has that faster expo. Behind this, Fox is using his aggressive nature, his aggressive posture on the map. He's going to try to force a cancel on that egg. Doesn't end up happening. I mean, Hamster doesn't recognize it, but he could have just taken that fight and probably driven him off for good, especially with the reinforcements coming. It's kind of funny to see Hydra Wars instead of Quaz Wars. We saw Quaz Wars for a much longer period of time. Looks like the Ovaleth Hamster going up to his usual antics of going for those drops. He is going to be dropping 3 Hydras. Not very devastating versus Droleths, but maybe they get something done. And yeah, Hamster should try to find an opportunity to maybe do a little bit of something when it comes to the harassment. And also the eco, I'm seeing extra workers come up for him, and I think that's very important. He's also putting down a forward Kagrin. He wants to turn that into a Circuit. We'll see if that absorbs a lot of HP damage. And remember, that Ovaleth is on the way just as the workers start to arrive. Our players have kept relatively even on worker count, and actually they're going to start harvesting resources at their natural base pretty quickly. But it looks like these 3 Hydralisks are on a different course. Maybe they're going after a Larvosk? I don't know. I mean, you definitely are worried about this because it could be Iziricors, and instead the Ovaleth is just going to fly away. This is actually really good by Hamster if he just feints it out and is like, yeah, there's nothing even in there, dude. What are you overestimating? You know, he doesn't have the opportunity to do much damage to the eco with just a couple of Hydras, right? So he's going to end up flying away, and yeah, Fox is none the wiser. He probably just thought it was like a fake out drop, right? Yeah, making you think it was a drop. And Hamster behind this has drolled up quite massively. That being said, Fox just had a big hatch as well. So yeah, both of our players building healthy economies. The Hydras are not really super good at breaking each other's positions. So they're good brawling units, but they're not going to be the mono battle unit that everybody wishes they were. I actually think Iziricors are pretty good to mix in versus Hydra. But naturally, if you really want to dominantly defeat Hydralisks, you want units from another branch. You know, you're not really going to find a unit that hard counters the Hydralisk or whatever. We try not to have hard counters in the game, generally speaking, as a design standpoint. But yeah, we generally speaking, you don't want those hard counters coming in. Hey, the Khaz'trith Cesian has made its appearance. That's pretty neat. Actually, we need a custom sound effect for that. I have to build one out. Right now, it's still using the Scortrith. But yeah, overall, the Khaz'trith Cesian, it has this effect, as you can see, this big yellow effect. What happens when you are within range of the Khaz'trith is you get an extra attack. So that extra attack can target up to 2 other targets, other than your primary. So you can have, say, these 3 Hydras were coming in close. Then you could have 1 Hydra attack all 3, and the secondary targets would be taking half damage. So it's effectively a 2x damage multiplier, but in the context of, you know, you have to have a certain number of targets within range, and obviously you have to be surrounded by the Khaz'trith. Now, I'm sure Hamster will be thinking about ways to drop this. I think he might have already done so in games that have been played but not submitted for cast. Wink! But the Ski-Backed is up, and we do have the... okay, so we got the Ski-Backed, we got the Shroud on both sides, although Hamster's is only now finishing. Fox has not actually pulled the trigger on any combat units other than the Hydra. He's now adding 6 Zoryus. He's probably thinking that, you know, Zoryus are not bad versus Hydra if you can keep enough of them alive long enough to keep making those Rilla Rokors. You ensnare them, reduce their DPS, that kind of thing. I think 6 is a good number versus what we're seeing Hamster make. And the Bactylus count is, I mean, Hydra back beats just pure Hydra, but not as hard as you might think. You know, there are some concerns with that. And oh, I like Fox's positioning at 9 o'clock. He's making sure that there's nobody taking that base. This Hydra is guarding the 6 o'clock position, and the other one was just sort of watching for the 36 Hydras that are moving out. Yeah, this one's also going to get executed in the same way. So it's a pretty considerable army. Worker count pretty massive for Hamster, but he's only on 2 bases, right? So he does need an ability to secure something at some point. Ski-Backed continuing to afford more tools. Looks like his Ovaleth had gone flown afoul of a variety of the issues there with the Hydras on the defense. 6 Lakizilisks on the way might be paramount for Hamster to hold. We will see, though. I think his Hydra count is still high enough to break down the Zoryus, and the Bactylisks can do the engagement like with the bounces and stuff, they can attack the Hydralisks with a little bit of focus fire. Lake is in the backfield. I feel like there's not really an opportunity for Fox to break Hamster here, but he has so much more map tempo that as Hamster, even though I have extra workers over my opponent, I'm not really comfortable in this position. You know, I want to get that third base so I can really leverage my extra workers. Here comes the engagement, and predictably, those Zoryus are starting to fall pretty fast. That being said, a couple of the NightFox's Lakizilisks have deployed. It looks like we've got a pretty mirrored engagement as far as the army comps, which is pretty funny considering the number of units that are here. And look at that, an Oveleth already out here and ready for Hamster. He will mop up those Lakes. There will not be too much of a massacre on that front. So it looks like now Hamster is reinforcing with 13 Hydras. He's pushing across the map, looking to secure himself that 6 o'clock position. Will he expand to it, or will he simply try to drive the nail into Fox's coffin? I don't really think that he'd be able to break across that bridge, although the Lakizilisks do force a fallback since there's still no detection for Fox. He might still decide to charge over the mainland, but now his actual pullback of these Hydras has allowed Hamster to potentially get across this bridge if he really wants to commit. That Zoryu's super impactful as it spawns a few really row cores, and they do get that ensnare proc off, and that is going to force Fox back. We got reinforcing Hydras forcing the issue as well. Maybe they could have gone a little bit of a different angle. This is still a very large number of Hydras, and Hamster, sloppy as ever with his rallies, is definitely going to be reeling from that position. He could end up having to flank this army with his own units. Remember, the Lake is still guarding the bridge. A lesser player, a lesser man perhaps, would have already abandoned the bridge and tried to withdraw, but instead he's actually gambling that Fox doesn't try to commit up the ramp here. And I feel like maybe some of the units forcing the issue, I don't know if that was intentional or not. Seems like it was. He's going to go ahead and try to camp those eggs as Hamster attempts to do what Hamster does best, aggressive plays that may or may not be advised. There's still no detection, but the Zoryus can afford to stand on top of the Lakes, and that will be it for the push. That being said, at the same time, Hamster didn't lose too much back home. He has not lost any production. He has not lost... Oh, look at that scoop in the Lakes. I like that. He might even be able to stealthily sneak it in here. There's a bunch of Hydras already waiting for him. So, yeah, that's going to be a rough one. He tries to get it unloaded, but unfortunately for him, it was not quite fast enough. All right, so he's got 19 Hydras. He's got his Khaz'trith to try to hold against a superior number of Hydras. Still neither player actually going for an expansion, which is really funny at this point because Fox definitely could afford it and had the ability to. Hamster, maybe he wanted to just hold against the Hydras instead of trying to do the push in, but Hamster does Hamster things. Khaz'trith providing a good amount of extra damage versus those really row cores. Normally it takes a bit longer to kill them, especially for single target units like the Hydralisk. I almost called it the Hamsterlisk. I guess that should be the Easter egg name since, I mean, he's not really known for his Hydras, though. I don't know. We have 5 Gorgs coming out for the NightFox, so he wants to take to the skies a little bit, maybe see if he can get some good value versus the Droleths. Accompany that with an Oveleth, you stop the burrow from mattering either, so could be significant. That being said, we do have anti-drop, although I will note that this Kagrant in the back at the natural is not actually preventing too much here. Not protecting anything. There's no Spraith, no Circuit from it, so could be a little bit of a risky move. Looks like these Monuments of Sin have affronted Fox enough. He's going to go ahead and open up the middle of the map for more large army action. At least he pops one of them. Let's see. The Gorgs have actually, they've been spotted by Hamster's army. And now a couple of Hydras are going to go ahead and clear out 6, just as a Droleth finally attempts to go for an expansion. We do have 9 o'clock being taken. Finally, a third base from one of these players will actually go down and stay there. And the Gorgs have stayed their blades for now, but they are going to be sweeping on in. There's already an assortment of Hydras ready to stop them in their tracks. So there you go. Hamster's aware of the threat. Now, I would say that's a pretty limited committal. Yeah, he's still diving in, seeing what he can find. The Hydra count pretty high. This is a game where, as I mentioned in the previous cast, whenever we do end up fixing up some of the placement issues for the ridge caps, that will probably change a lot about this. Because if you look at it, the gas has been pretty low for our players. I think below 500 is pretty low. Oh, and look at that! This whole time, Hamster's been without his Hydra then. Wait, no. What? That's supposed to be a pool. I thought maybe he lost the scab, and I was like mistaken when I said he didn't really lose anything of consequence. He's making a second Hydra. Why? I couldn't tell you what the significance of that is. Well, his third base has been stopped in its tracks. We got 11 workers waypointed in the direction of that extra base at 9 o'clock. So Fox will start to take the economic advantage. Hamster's mined out in his main, and soon to be his natural. He's trying to push out, desperate for map control, desperate for anything. We've got some Bactylisks morphing on the front line and plenty more Hydras where that came from, but Hamster is slowly pushing through. I think he will be held, though. I don't think he has enough reinforcements. I feel like this is going to be where his time comes to a close. That being said, the Khaz'Trith being attempted to be focused down by those Gorgs. Oh, look at that. He does end up getting clear and immediately remorphing it. Let's say it paid for itself there during all the hold. Plenty more Hydras, plenty Bactylisks. Yeah, Fox, I feel like, will be able to just starve Hamster out. You know, he's starting to deplete in these fields as well. There's not really going to be that much mining left for him in the main base. Because he just finishes. Hamster really doing his best to turtle up here. He just has no agency on the map, though. The third base being established. The Gorgs just kind of holding back. For some reason, Fox is offended with the build time of a Khaz'Trith. Hey, he loaded a Riller Ocore out. That's funny. Well, he's going to be attempting to go for a Hydra drop. Not the most scary of the options here. The double circuit, well, triple, I guess, if you count that ramp. Look at that, actually. I don't know that Fox actually noticed that. Meanwhile, we do have a Spraith active over here. Yeah, I don't even know if he killed a worker, did he? I guess he killed one. Maybe not. Maybe that was the Gorgs leaving. Hydras have deployed. They've already killed more workers than Fox was able to with those Gorgs. Not ideal. I mean, Hamster's playing a very campy style, but he is depleted. Like, he has no money right now, and he's got a lot of money in the bank, I guess I should say, but he doesn't really have the ability to withstand the economic machine that has been established by the TheNightFox. He's going to go ahead and resaturate his own depleted third base. And yeah, his drops are not going to be able to do too much. Not going to be able to accomplish too much. The pool coming down. So now we know, yeah, Hamster did mean to make a pool. That was a bit goofy. And he's making Izira cores. He's making a couple Bactyls. Sent a Hydra out here, but there's already one to riposte this single assault. Yeah, bite him. Nibble him. Deleted. Hamster is slowly pushing his way out into the middle of the map. Another Monument of Sin falls, and now Fox can just sort of turn his attention onto Hamster's army, but instead he actually feels like he needs to fall back. I guess his army is not really in a good position if you look at the place of his Zoryus. Like, his Zoryus placement is not super ideal right now. He is waypointing more units up through the middle of the map. Hamster does have a pretty formidable army, but that being said, this is pretty much where it ends for him. His reinforcement count is going to be a few Hydras, a few Zoryus, nothing special. So if he loses this group of units, that's pretty much it for him. Fox, on the other hand, has a lot of production. Not really using it right this moment, but has a decent amount of cash to splash as well. Neither player reinvesting in Khaz'Triths might have been a mistake for Fox on the defensive side, but he probably didn't expect himself to be in the defensive side. They both charge each other. The Hydras are holding out versus the Bactyls. There's no engagement with the front line. Obviously, the Zorya is not really able to get through there. And another arc of reinforcements is moving to the rest of the map as a counterattack, while Hamster is attempting to do his best to try to secure another base at the 3 o'clock position. He has been foiled. His movements in 6 o'clock have been taken care of. A couple of Hydras are going to be brought down here. Well, I should say a couple of Zoryus, but there you go. There you go. That's something. Meanwhile, plenty more forces where that is. Yeah, I think the hammer has fallen at this point. I've been waxing lyrical about Hamster on his last legs for some time, but the military count really illustrates it. These are pretty commensurable tech armies. It's not like we've got a lot of pool units for Fox or something. Even then, if these were all pool units, I'd still think that he's gonna have the win. You know, there's 3 Hydras over here. And yeah, GG has to be called. That's pretty much all the agency he had. He was not able to keep that 3 o'clock position up. So that will be game number 1 going to the TheNightFox. I believe they played more games, but only maybe the longer ones or the more back and forth ones were submitted. I can't remember the exact wording of the submission. But Fox will take the first match. Tomorrow, we'll see his Terran versus Hamster and how that one fares by comparison. Thanks for joining me for this cast. And of course, you can donate to project development if you want to help support us. And stay tuned for those aforementioned gas caps. I hope that they will be live by the 8th in the next big release that we have. GG.